Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Well, today is new Carrera slot car day. Now, if you watched my last video on What's in a Box Wednesday, I showed you a little sneak peek of this car. Well, today we're going to open it up, we're going to check it out, and we are going to test it on my track stock. I'm going to do a little bit of tuning, show you what I do to the car, and we'll test it again and see if I get any improvements out of it. Here we go. Nothing like cutting open a fresh car. Oh, looks so much better without that jewel lid on top. This thing is so shiny. Look at this car. Okay, real quick, I want to talk just a little bit about the history of this car. This car was driven in 2021 DTM season by Austrian driver Christian Klein. He was an ex-Formula One driver. He only drove a few races that I can find. I'm new to this car, and I was new to the DTM championship, which is the German touring car masters, if you will. I roughly translated, I think I got it right. He actually placed 5th in this car on the very first race in Holland. This car also raced with Christian Klein in the Belgium circuit, and at Nuremberg, and the Dutch circuit in Assen. And that's all I could find on the car, but this thing is so cool looking. All right, let's get it off of the base and take another closer look at it. Just real quick before we actually look at the car, if you're new to Carrera, the digital and or their analog, they all come with some goodies in the back of their case. You usually get an extra set of mirrors, like you can see right here, and you get some extra braids and a different guide for different tracks. Let's see here. Maybe not. Maybe it's the same style of guide for this track too. I'm not sure on the guides. Well, I should know what I'm talking about, huh? I thought they gave you 2 guides so that you could run on a wood track and or plastic track. Guys, let me know in the comments below for sure if that's what the case is, or if this is just a spare guide. I only have a digital track, so I've never actually taken one of these out of the package to even look at it. Okay, now let's take a closer look at this car. These wheels don't spin too bad. We're going to make that better. I have another Carrera car that these wheels are horrid on. I have to tune up, and I'll do that in another video someday. But today is about this McLaren. As you can see, look at all the livery on this thing. This thing is absolutely gorgeous. It even has the driver's name right there on the side of the car on both sides. The little driver inside of the cockpit, like all Carrera race cars have, which is just awesome. And of course, I'm not going to do it, but yeah, the wing will come off. It helps to keep things from breaking. And as you saw, there were spare mirrors in there. These mirrors will pop off. Now, me personally, if I'm racing this with other people and I'm really aggressive, I'd probably just take the mirrors off anyways, maybe even the wing. That way I don't take a chance of losing them or possibly even breaking them. Here you get the bottom of your Carrera car. Here's your little LED to actuate all of the digital aspects of your Carrera track, your motor back here, your magnet, and your little switch here. Now, I hear so many different stories about this. Some say this changes it from analog to digital, and some say that this changes it from which direction the car will go on the track. Well, you know what? Let's give that a try here in a little bit when I put this car on the track, because normally your Carrera cars run clockwise. But man, the tires, Carrera tires, they're not the greatest tires in the world, that is for certain. But this car is pretty sweet. And of course, you have your lights, headlights, and your tail lights. Love Carrera, love digital. All right, guys. So now that we've taken a close look at this thing, let us do about 5 laps, stock right out of the box. Let's see what kind of times we can get on my track. My track is not huge. My track is also not completely finished the way I want it, but it is kind of cool. It's kind of long. So we're going to run it stock, like I said, then we're going to tune it up. We're going to run it again and see if we can make any improvements. Well, you know what? I did the smart thing. I actually read the instructions and learned what this switch is actually for. It's kind of true with both the statements that I made. This switch is if you want to take this digital car and run it on Carrera's Evolution non-digital analog track. You would flip this switch to the other direction, and then you would put it on the Evolution analog track. You hit the button a couple times on the controller, and well, basically this car will be tuned to that track. And yes, it runs the opposite way on Evolution, apparently. At least that's what I read in the directions. So there we go. Instead of guessing, read the daggone directions, right? Okay, now we'll do our 5 laps and see what we can get out of this car bone stock. Here we go. I am using the Smart Race app in order to record our lap times. So let's get started. Well, I don't know if this is showing up on this camera right now, but this was the very first time I ran this car in this video. I did not do any test laps, so I only have 5 laps on this car right now. And as you can hopefully see, my best time was my last lap at 3.9 seconds for this track. But hey, that's pretty good. Let's tune her up a little bit and see if I can get some better times out of it. Granted, it might also be the fact that I've driven it a few times now, which might help. But hey, you know what? I don't care. It's going to be cool anyways. Let's open this Carrera McLaren slot car up. Let's give her a little bit of a tune-up and throw her back on the track and see if we can improve our times. If you've never opened up a Carrera slot car, most of them are the same. You have 4 screws here. That will remove the body shell from the frame. And as you can see, I'm using this little work mat that I reviewed a few videos ago. I love the silicone mat. Nothing falls off of it. Things don't roll off it because it has lips. This thing's great. Anyways, let's put it to good use today. And it's just as quick as that. Yeah. And the body just comes straight off of the frame, just like that. And here is the interior of your Carrera slot car. Of course, you have your rear axle, you have your front axle, your motor, and your digital chip with your lighting. And one nice thing about Carrera, especially for the price point, especially for the simple fact that these are considered almost toy cars. These are home track slot cars, not like going out to the professional ring racing slot cars. They come with actual brass bushings for the axles. That's pretty daggone awesome. And speaking of the brass bushings and axles, that is the first thing that we are going to do. We are going to see if we can make this wheel spin just a little bit better than that. And if that one spins a little bit better with what we're about to do to it, that means this back one will too. So in order to remove your axles from your frames, don't freak out, but all you got to do is pop them out, just like that. And just gently wiggle them, easier said than done, out from the little wire harness. And here is our front axle free. Now, I can tell already just by running these little brass bushings up and down this axle, it's not smooth. It's got, well, it's not almost a burrs, but it's a little rough. So this is what we are going to do to help with this. I have here some 2000 grit sandpaper. You can use 2000, 3000, 4000. You want to use a very high grit sandpaper because all we're going to do is we're going to polish this axle. We do not want to sand it. We just want to lightly polish it to make it super slick. As you can see, I cut off just a small strip of that sandpaper, and I'm just going to wrap around my axle, and I'm just going to spin the axle in the sandpaper. Just enough pressure just to hold the paper on the axle, not squeezing it hardly at all. And you mainly want to worry about your edges where these bearings ride. but it does not hurt to do the whole axle. Done with one side, slide the bearings down, and let's do the other side. Yeah, it definitely feels much better. And in order to put it back together, it's just the reverse of what we did. We just need to very carefully wind it through our little wiring harness there, get our bearing caps all the way to the end. Easier said than done sometimes when you have big fingers. And just pop, pop, and that's in. And the rear is exactly the same. Just kind of pop her out. Only difference here is I may have to cut this paper a little bit narrower. Excuse my inability to use English, just because I don't want to mess with this gear. And here's our sandpaper yet again. Just cut down even more. Wrap it around there. Heck, you can hold it from this end and just spin the axle. That's it for that. And then make sure you put your axle back in the proper orientation. And just like the front, line it up, pop it in, and there you go. Now we're going to throw a little bit of oil on our bushings, just a little dab. Do it. Get her in there. Oh yeah, that thing. Check this out now. Look at that. Ooh, doggy. Spinning a lot better. Like I said, just a little dab is all you need. Now, there is one more step that I would like to do, but unfortunately, I can't because I can't find my grease for my gears. I may have left it at a friend's house, but if I had it, I would use slot car grease and I would grease these plastic gears. It doesn't take much at all, but that would help with the mesh and help make them last a little bit longer and run a little bit smoother. When I get it, I'll reopen this car and put it on there. But basically, if you had it, I would take like a little itty bitty toothpick or anything like that and just put a little dab, spin it, put a little dab, spin it, put a little dab, maybe 4 little dabs, and just work it around like that. Now, some people, for tuning up their cars, will go as far as taking hot glue and hot gluing the motor down to the frame. I'm not ever going to race this car in any kind of real competition, so I don't need to do that, but that is also a possibility. You can do that. But that's basically it for tuning up your car, except for one last thing. Once we get the body back on, we are going to true up these rear tires because, well, Carrera tires are not the best, but we are going to true them up to make them a little bit stickier, a little bit better. And no, I do not have a tire truer. I have, well, an emery board, and it works just fine. So let's get it back together and I'll show you how I true up my tires. And again, this is how I true up my tires. I do not have a tire truer. I would love to have a tire truer if somebody would like to buy one for me or give me one to test out on my channel, but I just can't see spending the money for one for just a home track. I don't actually go racing these cars, so it doesn't have to be perfect. With that being said, again, I use an emery board. This is just a 100 or 180 grit emery board, whichever side you flip it. How I do this, as you can see my setup here, I just throw a paper towel down to catch the mess. I have my emery board at 100 grit. I hold it nice and tight with my thumb and my middle finger, and I hold the wing of the car with my forefinger, and I just start slowly. Let's take a look at that real quick. It's getting nice and sticky. Now we did that, I'm going to flip her over and kind of, I hate to say polish, I don't want to make it smooth again, but I want to get rid of some of the roughness. So same thing, you don't have to do this, just I like to. As you can see, the paper towel catches most of the mess. Here are my tire marks on my emery board, and here are my tires. Somewhat true, they are not 100% perfect. As a matter of fact, I'm going to actually hit them again off camera. It's kind of hard to do this behind the camera because this one's a little chunky, and we're going to get it perfect, and we're going to run her around our track again and see what we can do. See if we can better our time. Just like beforehand, we are going to be using the Smart Race app. We're going to do 5 laps to see if we can better our times. The car has been tuned up. Let's race.
3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, I can already tell you right now, just It's sticking like glue right now. Oh, jump slots, but we're still going. That was a lot faster. Let's check our stats. Okay, so let's check our stats on the first race we did. Right out of the box, untuned. And our best time on that race, or those 5 laps, was 3.947. Respectable. Not a fantastic driver. Not bad. Now let's check out what we got after the tune. Again, before we look at this, remember, I've ran maybe 12 laps now on this car. I did 5 laps the first time right out of the box. After I tuned it up before I did the other one, I ran around the track I think 3 times just to make sure everything was running okay. Then we raced it again. And this time we did 3.4. Not bad for a little bit of tuning. And as you saw, all we did was use a little bit of sandpaper to polish our axles, a little bit of oil on those axle bearings. That was it. I want to show you something real quick to help you tune your car even a little bit better. After running a few laps now, we tuned this car and I trued the tires. But after running a few laps, if you look real close, you can see the wear on the tires, which means I need to trim a little bit more. That wear should be evenly across the tires, not to the insides like it is. So that's awesome. We tuned it a little bit, we raced it, it showed us where we needed to tune more. We'll do that, and this car will be super fast because it will stick like glue. Now before we go anywhere, I want to talk about where I picked up this Carrera Digital 132 McLaren JP Motorsports slot car at. I bought this off of a company called Carrera Slots. You can look them up at carreraslots.com. I order everything online through them. And just so you know, I am not affiliated with Carrera Slots in any way, shape, or form. Heck, they don't even know I'm talking about them right now. The reason why I'm bringing them up is because you can't beat their prices. They have the lowest prices around that I have found anywhere. Now let me show you what I'm talking about. I brought up their website on my phone. And if you can see right there, this car, as of the release of this video right now, is $49.99. And how Carrera works is anything under $100, shipping is $8.99. And anything over $100 is $13.99 for shipping. And these are just your standard shippings, nothing, no expedited overnight, just standard shipping. Now, let me show you this car on Amazon right now. Now this is a third-party seller, I'm sure, and it's inflated terribly, I'm sure, but check out that price. Can you see that? That, my friends, is $162.74, and they offer free delivery. That's nice of them. Now I showed you that car on Amazon because that's the only one I can find of this McLaren right now on Amazon for that price. That's insane. And I've priced other cars, even normal cars that there's tons of them out there. Even with my Prime membership and free shipping, Carrera Slots is still cheaper. And one more thing that I really like about Carrera Slots at carreraslots.com is that it's a brick and mortar store in Minnesota. It's a mom and pop store. And I would like to give my money to people like that. Now, understand one thing. I'm an Amazon affiliate member. I'm an Amazon associate member, whatever you want to say. And I could have said, hey, go buy this car for that strange, crazy price on Amazon, and I'd have made money off you guys. But I don't want to do that because that's just insane. And this is so much better to spend your money for something like this at a family-owned business. That's my humble opinion anyhow. Okay, enough of my ranting and raving about pricing and, well, price gouging, if you will. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on this Carrera McLaren 720S. I had to have this. I do not have, or I did not have, a McLaren in my stable, and I do now. This car is absolutely gorgeous, and it is pretty stinking quick. I like these short wheelbase cars like this. Love the looks of this thing. It's so rich looking, isn't it, with that black and gold? And as always, folks, thank you for spending your time with me. God bless, and take care.